Kripatamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dinitarana Ancha Kapuribishcha Kripa Sindhudevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Ramana Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So when we look at these two things, lamentation and happiness, we find a very telling historical account in the Srimad Bhagavatam in this regard. Of course, the Srimad Bhagavatam is 5,000 years old. 5,000 years old. And even if someone was to say it was however old it is, the principles or the problems that were happening then are happening now. The problem of how to deal with lamentation, the problem of happiness problem. So we see in the Srimad Bhagavatam a case of one king, King Chitraketu. And he had a number of wives, but one of them is named Krita Duty, and specifically, he was trying to have a wife with any of them. He was trying to have a son with any of them, and that was just not working. And that was causing him a lot of pain, a lot of frustration. Sometimes it happens, people want children and somehow or other they can't have them. It doesn't work. So he was really trying to have a child, specifically a son, and there was no son coming. So it was a big problem. So one great sage that we all may be familiar with, or most of us familiar with, Narada Muni, came and he asked Chitraketu, what is the problem? And Chitraketu said, I'm trying to have a son and it's not happening. That's the problem. And Narada Muni, he said, okay, you could tell your wife, have this special sweet rice, and then you try to have your son and it should be fine. But I'll warn you that this son will be, one, a great cause of happiness, and two, a great cause of distress or lamentation. So do you still want to go forward with this plan? And Chitraketu said yes. He wanted to go forward with this plan. So they had their son. The son came, beautiful son. Kritadyuti was very happy, the mother. Chitraketu was very happy as a father. They were in parental bliss, marital bliss, parental bliss. So they're really happy to have such a beautiful son. So then some time passed, and again, we should note that there's a lot of other queens. And these queens were sonless, were daughterless. They didn't have any children with the king. So what was happening in the minds of the other queens is that there started this really intense envy started to fester within them, started to grow within them. And it became so ugly, it became so, just intense that they thought, okay, we're going to make a plan here. And what they did is they administered poison to the young boy. And so what happened was, one day when the queen, Kritadyuti, came to see her son was lifeless. Young baby boy was lifeless. And she called the husband, the king, Chitraketu, all the other wives, queens came, a bit out of a show because they knew what was happening. I mean, it was a show because they knew exactly what was happening. But they came and they're also crying. They call that like crocodile tears, like false tears. They were crying, and the queen was crying, and Chitraketu was crying, and it was so intense. They fell on the ground. He could hardly walk. I mean, he couldn't walk. He couldn't talk. He was just completely stunned, and unhappiness, distress. So you can imagine. So then Narada Muni comes to the scene, his guru, his teacher, and he sees this lifeless boy there. So he goes up to the boy, Narada Muni, and through his mystic power, he's a great devotee, great bhakti yogi. Through his power, he brings the boy back to life, amazingly enough. And then the boy starts to communicate with Narada Muni and the parents. And Narada Muni, he tells the boy, speak to your parents. And the boy's there, and he looks up at them. And then in the Bhagavatam, it says, Jiva Uvacha, means the soul spoke. I guess he didn't have a name. Anyways, they didn't put his name. But Jiva Uvacha. And what did he say? He said that as a spirit soul, I've been transmigrating in so many different forms of life, sometimes higher forms, sometimes lower forms, the principle of reincarnation. But like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Dehino Svenita Dehe, Komaram Yovanam Jaratata Dehantara Praptidiras Tatra Namuyati, that the soul is continuously passing from childhood to youth to old age, and similarly the soul passes on to another body at the time of death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So he said, I've been transmigrating from this species to that species. And factually, I've had so many mothers and fathers. So then he said, which mother and father are you? That's what he said. He was a little confused. Which mother and father are you? I mean, makes sense. So, and then he began to say how just as like in an ocean, for example, or a river, twigs come together, leaves come together, they stay for some time, and they separate. It's similarly, within this world, people, their friends, their family, this and that, over some time there's a separation due to the force of time. So in this way, he was instructing his parents, and you could imagine how shocked they were. First of all, the boy died, and then he came back to life, and then he was speaking to them high-level philosophy. And then after some further instruction, the boy just left again. Just took off again. Means the body was lifeless. And at that point, all the other queens, they performed some type of, what would you call it? They performed a funeral for the son. And Narada Muni, he went on to instruct Chitraketu on the science of God realization, self-realization. He gave him a very specific mantra, special mantra that is there in the Bhagavatam. It's quite a long series of prayers glorifying Krishna, so on. Just like you also have in which canto? The fourth canto, you have Narada Muni giving Dhruva Maharaj a mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva. Oh yeah, so he gives different mantras, his different disciples. So he gave Chitraketu a mantra in which, meditating on, he attained God realization. He attained self-realization. Actually saw Krishna, and there's a whole long communication between them. So, and based on that mantra, not only did he develop or awaken his love for Krishna, but he became a ruler of a particular planet. Does anyone remember which planet? What is it? Not that one, another one. What is it? Okay. Yeah, Chitraketu. He became ruler of Vidyadhara Loka, some planet. So there he was the ruler, and he was enjoying. He was also a great pure devotee of Krishna. So one day he was flying on his airplane, said he was with a number of women, and they were chanting the holy names of Krishna all together, having kirtan. And then they're flying there, and then they look down and they see Lord Shiva there, Mahadev. And Shiva is with his wife, Parvati, Bhavani, Parvati, Durga. He's there with his wife. And what are they doing? Shiva, his lap, his wife, Parvati, and they're embracing. And not only are they embracing in a public area, but there's a bunch of sages there. Shukadev Goswami, the speaker of the Bhagavatam, Vyasadev, very extremely qualified, to say the least. Beyond qualified, pure devotees, sages, they're all sitting there, right in front of Shiva and Parvati. So Chitraketu, he's in his plane and he looks down and he starts to laugh. And Parvati hears this. And she becomes really offended. She's defending her husband. She becomes really offended. And it's explained that Chitraketu, Srila Prabhupada explained, Chitraketu, it's not that he was deriding Shiva. It's not that he wasn't seeing the good in Shiva. Shiva means auspicious. But it's not that he was not seeing the good. Just like in the fourth canto, you have the pastime between Daksha and Sati. So Daksha, those of you familiar with that, I mean, he was not seeing the good in Shiva at all. It was like he was just seeing this person's just despicable, and anyway, so on and on and on. But Chitraketu was actually seeing the good in Shiva. But he was thinking that if Shiva does this in public, in front of all these sages and so on, this is not the general mode in which a transcendentalist should act. Actually, they shouldn't act like that. Considered out of the scope of culture and etiquette and all that. So he was thinking that if he does this, just like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, whatever a great person does, common people follow. So he said that if he does this, what will the common people do? So that was his mindset, Chitraketu. And Shiva, Lord Shiva and Parvati, Lord Shiva and the sages, they understood that. Shiva just smiled a little bit along with the sages. There was no reaction. But Parvati, she was really angry. Yeah, very angry. Now, Srila Prabhupada also explains that along with his innocent thought of he's a great personality, if he does this, what will common people do? Srila Prabhupada explains that he did have a little pride. He was a little proud. Because, after all, he saw Krishna. I mean, he had a whole long conversation with Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I mean, he was in charge of the Vidyadhara Loka. So he had some So we see that sometimes within our own lives, things may be mixed. There might be some good motives or some innocent motives, and then there's some mix. There's some mixing there. So this is what we're seeing with Chitraketu. He was a little proud, but also he was innocently trying to protect Lord Shiva's reputation and trying to set a good example for other people. So, so looking at this pride principle, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we have our Panchatattva here, the painting. We have Lord Chaitanya in the middle. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the father of the Sankirtan movement, or the chanting of the holy names, the movement based on the chanting of the holy names, he left 8 instructions for us to meditate on and follow. And one of those is Trinata Pisuni Chinator Pisahishana Amanina Amanina Kirtaniya Sadahari, which Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the author of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the biography of Lord Chaitanya, he says we should wear this around our neck like a garland. Means we should always remember it and follow it. So one should be as humble as a blade of, more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, ready to offer all respects to others and expect no respect in return. In such a state, one could chant the holy names of Krishna constantly. So unless one has that humility, unless one has that humbleness, then like Srila Prabhupada goes on to explain that one cannot be a devotee of Krishna, claim to be a devotee of Krishna, but they should be a devotee of a devotee of Krishna. Don't try to jump over. So sometimes if that humility is not there, then Krishna, or say material nature, in this case you have Durga or Parvati, she will smash or cut the devotee's pride down. Mamai Vangsho Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna. No, excuse me, that's the wrong verse. Daivi he shogunamai mamamaya dhratya mame prapadyante mayame tam tarantite. That Krishna says that this divine energy of mind consisting of the 3 modes of material nature is very difficult to overcome, but those who surrender to me can easily cross beyond it. So if we are proud, Srila Prabhupada explains, then Maya will smash us. Sounds like fun, right? For our benefit. So he was a little proud. Srila Prabhupada also commenting on this said that another thing to note in this pastime is that there is what is called as Vaishnava Aparad. And if you look at this word aparad, it's a word that can be broken down into 2, aparadha. So aparad means like to commit an offense. So radha, so it means without Radha. So Radharani, or Krishna's consort, she's in charge of bhakti and Krishna prem and love for Krishna, and really she's how we elevate ourselves in Krishna consciousness. So committing aparad means we lose that mercy of Radharani. She's the tender-hearted feminine counterpart of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we lose that. And our specifically committing Vaishnava Aparad, offending devotees, it's considered to be like the mad elephant offense, which just smashes the creeper of devotion. And our Krishna consciousness becomes, our advancement halts or becomes frozen for some time. So the idea is to avoid that. So Parvati was thinking, Chitraketu, he's an offender. He's offending Lord Shiva. So what am I going to do now? So she said, because you're an offender, because you think that you're greater than all of these sages sitting here who are not correcting Shiva, because you think you have better sense control than Lord Shiva, I'm going to curse you. This is Parvati. And she said, I'm going to curse you to take birth in a demonic family as a demon. Pretty bad curse. So he went from quite an eventful life, right? With his not having a son, and then having a son, and the son waking up, and the son instructing him, and then him leaving, and then him seeing Krishna, and then him being in charge of the sun planet, and then this whole Shiva and Parvati thing. Quite an eventful Chitraketu, right? So he went from that, all of that, seeing Krishna and Krishna Prem, be in charge of Vidya, to just being cursed. You're going to be cursed to take birth as a demon who's naturally against Krishna. So, and what did he do at that time? Did he retaliate? Did he say, wait a second, I just laughed. Shiva wasn't offended, the sages weren't offended. What's your problem? You seem to be not understanding the situation here. You seem to be exaggerating, like you're not seeing things clearly. I'm going to call my lawyer. Right? He didn't say, you're wrong. Like, how dare you? You know who I am? I'm Chitraketu. I just saw Krishna recently. He didn't say any of that. He just folded his hands. She actually addressed him as Putra, which means son. For his benefit, she was cursing him. That was her idea. And then he just folded his hands and he called her Mata, which idea Shiva and Durga are the father and the mother in the material existence. So he folded his hands and he said, yes, I accept that curse. As you like, I'll accept that. And then there's this verse, the very famous verse that Srila Prabhupada would quote quite a lot. Narayana para sarve nakutashchana bibhiti swarga apavarga nadakeshu. Know the rest? Apitulium in darshanam, something like that. That whether a devotee is in heaven, in a heavenly situation, or whether the devotee is in a hellish situation, wherever devotee is, he has no fear. He's liberated. She's. So this verse from Lord Shiva is highlighting that. Just see Chitraketu Maharaj. He's not fearful. It's amazing. He's going to take birth as a demon, and he's just, this is what I deserve. So he accepted it. And Shiva, he went on to say that, and this is also a lesson. Srila Prabhupada again quotes Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Tranada Pisuni Chena, Torora Pisuna Manana Manadina Kirtanya Sada. Hari. One should be more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, ready to offer all respects to others and expect no respect in return. Such a state one could chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. So we could see Chitraketu Maharaj's humility. I unfortunately have been involved sometimes in the email. Terrible. It's one of the worst forms of communications that has been created. I mean, it has a purpose, but I think people tend to use it too much to try to communicate important things when they should just meet in person and like hear each other and try to speak with each other. Anyways, Hare Krishna. But I've seen some emails, and I've seen some of them were directed to me, and there was one recently where I just yes, sure, great point, and I agree. And of course, in the mind, I'm just joking. But I've seen some emails from others in which I thought that was very impressive. That person didn't retaliate. That person didn't snap back. They just very calmly and patiently answered things. It's quite impressive. And I've also seen it in person, people not retaliating. So it's a very, for example, we have our Vijay. I think Vijay has visited here, our old brahmachari friend, Vijay, book distributor. To know him is to love him. Oh, he's a nice devotee. I do love Vijay. But anyways, I remember hearing one time he was distributing books, going out passing out Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gitas and so on, and some guy came up to him and just started like shouting right in his face, like really heavily. And Vijay was just standing there. He wasn't saying anything. Wasn't this? And then the guy ran out of steam and he left. And then Vijay just kept on distributing books. And then another guy, he came up to Vijay and he was like, "Man, that was really impressive." He's like, "I want to buy one of those books. What do you have in those books?" So he got a book. So Vijay is kind of like that. Back in the 70s, when it was considered very, very strange to shave your head, for a man to shave their head, devotees, they would, to fit in with the crowd, they would wear wigs while they're out distributing books. So one time, while Vijay was out distributing books, one guy, he came up. He was talking with one guy, like, "Hey man, here's the Gita, take it. It's going to change your life. It's a wonderful book." So he's talking with him. And while he was talking with somebody, another guy came up and grabbed his wig and put it on his shoulder. And Vijay didn't do anything. He just kept on talking with the guy. He sold him the book. Anyways, these are a few simple modern examples. But so, yeah, it's very impressive when we see Chitraketus. There's no retaliation, just like, I'm just accepting it. And he wasn't fearful of it. And so as a general principle, that is good to do in relation to oneself. It could save a lot of time and energy and frustration and anger, and could even save a lot of relationships. So there's a great art to know when to speak and when not to speak. Something to learn from Chitraketu. So, yeah, very tolerant, very humble. So he's cursed to take birth as a demon, and that's exactly what he did. He took birth as a demon. But Srila Prabhupada explains that even though he was in the body of a demon, he still remembered his spiritual consciousness. So even if someone falls away or falls down or falls into illusion, falls into some unfortunate circumstances, if they've made advancement in Krishna consciousness, they're never the loser. It's always there. So whatever spiritual progress we make, it's with us. So that's a nice thing also. So he continues on with his eventful life, and there's more of that in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and eventually he attains complete spiritual perfection. Yeah. So in this way, looking at Chitraketu, taking a quick glance at Chitraketu's life, we can try to follow him in our own way in relation to being humble and tolerant, which part of that, and also avoiding Vaishnava aparad, and part of that also is forgiving others. It's a big thing. It's a very difficult age to live in many ways. And there's plenty of opportunities for us to offend people and be offended by people. And sometimes those things that people have done to us or said to us just stays with us for literally years. And it could actually stay for a whole lifetime or lifetimes. But what's interesting about that is a lot of the times what someone has said to us, like they forgot. Or they may they may not even realize that it hurt us, and we realize that we're just keeping that. So the wonderful thing about bhakti is that by chanting the holy names of Krishna, like we were just doing earlier, Kirtaneshwar was leading us in this nice kirtan melody earlier. By chanting the names of Krishna, our hearts will become soft, and not that we won't be offended by people per se, but not that we won't hurt our feelings or anything like that, but we will be able not to hold grudges towards people. We'll be able to forgive people, and that's a great blessing. Brings a lot of elevation and progress to our lives. So, does anybody have any questions? Yes. And in relation to chanting, I'll make a small announcement about that in a couple minutes. Yes.
Well, two things. One thing I announced is that we're going to go get the prasad, and then if people run out of questions, Balarama will come to submit a kirtan. Okay. So I'll come out. But my point, I wanted to make a comment of one story, modern story I've heard from my Guru Maharaj many times about this tolerance and how powerful it is. And my Guru Maharaj was very, very close to His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami, and in the Dallas community, and was always associating with him. And so there was one devotee who was very critical of Maharaj, and he was saying very many bad things, and he was going on a campaign to have Maharaj removed from the community. So it was kind of an intense situation.
Oh, really? Wow.
And so then Maharaj said, well, we need to have a meeting about it. So he told my Guru Maharaj, please come. My Guru Maharaj was a householder at this time. He said, please come into the meeting to have another person. And so they had this meeting, and they said that when they went in the meeting, Maharaj sat on the floor, and then the Prabhu sat in a chair. And the Prabhu went on for about 25 minutes, kind of telling Maharaj all of the various offenses he's made, and all the different accusations. And so after my Guru Maharaj was just sitting there quietly after the onslaught of accusations, Maharaj took off his glasses and he said, thank you, Prabhu. He said, the only thing is that if you knew the reality of my situation, you would have been going on for much longer. So please just give me your mercy that I may, improve. And so then that Prabhu started crying. He fell down at Maharaj's feet and started begging for forgiveness. And then afterward, Maharaj said, this is the proper way. We do not react. So I always find that pastime very inspiring. A nice example.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Yes.
That's lovely. It reminds me of something recently about how somebody criticizes and you just accept it because, imagine all the things that you got away with and nobody criticized you. And that's probably the least of it. And
yeah.
So it was a nice perspective. Another thing is, I don't know, it was a while ago that I was watching this lecture or hearing about a devotee's program. He does traveling to different temples. He does almost like therapy, I guess.
Mahatma, maybe?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Mahatma does seminars on forgiveness and things like that.
Yeah, and writing things down. And I remember him, firmly kind of softly explaining how when something we can't forget, it's all pretty much purifying the ego, to further advance.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody accepts the existence of God or the existence of Krishna, then one understanding of that is that Krishna is extremely merciful and forgiving, unbelievably forgiving. So if Krishna can forgive, then we should also be able to forgive. Now someone would say, okay, but he's all powerful, he's the supreme personality of Godhead. Easy for him, right? But the principle is there that we should to be godly means to forgive. We can't be God, but we could be godly. That's part of forgiveness. About chanting, because I was just talking about chanting. There's a very small book here, as you can see in my hand. It's very small. it was any smaller, it would be a problem. But it's a very small book, but a very beautiful book called Japa Affirmations 2.0. And this is a book by Mahatma. We were just talking about Mahatma. So it's his affirmations. He wrote one book on japa affirmations, and then this is the second one he wrote. And I always liked Mahatma. I remember in 2008, around when I joined the temple, I went on a japa retreat with him and many other devotees. Okay, Jamuna, thanks for are you leaving? Okay, thanks for stopping by. We'll see you. Can I we brought some cookies from Kanai for you too, so okay. So yeah, I attended this japa retreat with Mahatma, and anyways, I always liked him. I always found him to be very thoughtful. He has a lot of good stuff to say. So anyways, he wrote this first book, then the second book, and it's just affirmations based on his own realization of japa and japa chanting on our beads. This is the foundation of our spiritual lives. There's quotes that a very high percentage of our advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on japa. So I brought some of these books, and if you like, you could take them. I'll just read a little bit of one to give an idea of the type of, this is affirmation 2. All right, this is the affirmation, then he expands on it a little bit. So he says, I am a morning monk. Like in the morning, not morning, like sad, but morning monk. Morning, noon, evening. I'm a morning monk. I live like a monk in the early morning by focusing solely on my japa, avoiding any other activities or distractions. I'll just read a little bit of his. If we don't live in the temple, we face one fundamental challenge that can undermine good japa. And what is that? Life itself. It was close, yeah. Life itself. Life is busy. And I forgot to say, I wanted to thank you all for taking time out of your busy lives and meet. I forgot to say that in the beginning. Distracting and spiritually draining at times. There are innumerable things that can distract us from our japa and innumerable ways to be distracted since life happens. Those of us living outside the temple are exposed to more challenges to our japa than devotees living in the temple. The solution is to become a morning monk. In other words, for several hours every morning, we need to live like monks in a temple, doing our sadhana free of distractions. We might not have the luxury of 4 or 5 hours like temple, but every day we need sufficient quality sadhana time before our day begins. Anyway, so he goes on, and there's so many affirmations here. I guess there are, let's see, there's 20. So there's some of these books. You could give a small donation. It's a small book. So whatever you like, doesn't really matter. But I have some here if you want. You could take them for yourself or take them for your friends for good gifts. Any other question or comment? Yes. I felt really bad coming here because I didn't bring any. So no, I didn't bring any.
I have one to borrow.
But I can make an arrangement to have some come here soon. Yeah. Evelyn helped make that journal. So, all right. Yes.
That story was so nice. I wanted to hear it a little longer. But can you explain, like, even though Ketu, like when he fell into demoniac form, he
Yes.
still had a spiritual consciousness.
Yes.
And then he became Dhritarashtra, right?
Yes.
So still, I'm wondering, like, why he still wanted to, like, fighting God, killing God, like, I mean, whatever it is, like, fighting and everything. So can you explain, like, why?
Yeah, I mean, you have cases of this. For example, the 4 Kumaras, they go to Vaikuntha, and then Jaya and Vijay curse, and then they take birth in 3 lifetimes, right, as demons. So Vritrasura, yes, he was a devotee internally, but externally he was acting as a demon. Of course, later on, as Vritrasura, we hear him because he was killed by Indra, and then he went back to Godhead. But we hear his beautiful prayers to Krishna there. So, yeah, I mean, these are pastimes. These are wonderful things in the Bhagavatam. But yeah, I advise you to study it. So it's a whole many chapters with Chittaketu. So, like I said, a very eventful life. Yes.
What is a demon?
Okay, that's a good question. A demon is anyone want to say?
Someone who's adverse to Krishna. Like, I mean, who might even think and talk and like criticize Krishna, but is kind of obsessed with Krishna in the adverse.
What about horn? What about like?
Yeah, I was also kind of thinking like, is it just someone with like weird teeth or like their horns or Satan?
Yeah, recently I saw a car. It was Halloween time, so this guy had horns on his car. Yeah, but when we talk about demon, it doesn't mean like if horns or like fangs or things like that. It means somebody who is unfortunately at a stage in their consciousness, at a stage in their existence where they are very harmful to themselves and harmful to others, and they take great pleasure in that.
So you might just be a demon for your teenage years.
You could be a demon teenager, yeah.
You start off normal, and then you're a demon, and then you're cool again.
Yeah, that's possible. I think I was a demon teenager. Now that I think about it,
So like,
I don't know if my mother, I don't know if my mother agrees with that. She's very kind, so probably not. But yeah, from age 12 to 16, yeah, I was a demon.
So a demon family is just like a dysfunctional. Doesn't value goodness.
Yeah, there's like, for example, there's no moral compass. Compass. Yeah, there's no sense of. They have no problem with pain and inflicting suffering on others. They take great happiness in there. He's grabbing the Gita in the 16th chapter, which maybe he's gone. Oh, I thought he was grabbing the Gita. I'm hallucinating. I thought he was grabbing the Gita, but in the Gita, the 16th chapter, a whole list of demoniac qualities. But yeah, averse to Krishna, to the God. So many bad qualities are there.
No, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah. 16th chapter gives a great outline of a demon. So.
Wouldn't you say those would be more so attachments? That as some of us on a spiritual path, maybe if we go off the path and we go into the world of Maya, we're more susceptible to influences, the demonic influences.
Yeah.
Than a family being demons, that they're susceptible to fueling that entity to come in.
Yeah, at least historically in the Bhagavatam context, Bhagavat Purana context, there were just full-on families who were just like full-out demons. Now there probably is still, but it's a little bit more not so clear, because sometimes people may feel themselves like, oh, I have like demoniac like leanings or tendencies, and I have also good tendencies. Like this is a common thing that devotees bring up, at least some devotees bring up, about you have like the the bad wolf and the good wolf means, you know, the negative and positive aspects of yourself. And however much you feed, you know, one becomes weak, one becomes strong. Yeah. But yeah, one could be a devotee, then they could go to the other side. They could be a demon, go to the other side. So yeah, it happens like that also. Yes.
These asuras, these demons, are their activities karma causing for themselves? And the second question is, karma only an activity in our plane, on the earth plane? Or I mean, could you go to the heavenly world and have karma, create more karma there?
Yeah, there's karma there. And the heavenly planets.
But say it's not just on earth.
Yeah, I mean, mostly you hear about people not developing bad karma, but you hear about their good karma running out. That's how you generally hear about it. That's called coming to the point of death for those on the higher planets, that their credit is going, and then when it's just all gone, the credit card is, then they just fall. So that's there. Yes.
Is it possible to, last question, one part, is it possible?
Oh, don't be sorry. We're happy to.
Even though the sense enjoyment, the higher dimensions is inconceivable, is it still possible, instead of your karma running out, even in that position, to become Krishna conscious?
Yeah, from the heavenly planets you could continue. Yeah. Srila Prabhupada said that to one of his disciples, Jayananda. He wrote Jayananda a letter, and he said that if you have any material desires, then that means you went to the heavenly planets, and from there you make further progress. But because I understand you were hearing the holy names of Krishna, then you went to the highest planet. That's what he said, Krishna Loka. So
I'm a little confused because I thought the only way we could go to the spiritual world is in this realm.
Srila Prabhupada said in the letter to Jayananda, he said that you could make progress from the heavenly planets. You could go. Because
so you don't have to come back?
Yeah, like you could theoretically from this planet to the heavenly planets and then go further. Although that's not the recommended path. It's not recommended to do that, but it's possible. Yeah.
So risky.
Yeah.
Like with Jesus.
Yeah, it's risky because we might just become so bewildered by the heavenly planets and you're like, kind of forget about Krishna. Aside from that, it says that the demigods are lining up to take birth in Kali Yuga, this particular age. In the 11th canto, it says that because they want to participate in Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement.
What are the implications of that?
The implications of that is that it's such a bad time in this world right now. But simultaneously, it's such a good time because even though it's so bad, there's an amazing thing happening. Because you have Lord Chaitanya here on the wall with all of his associates. They're spreading the chanting of Hare Krishna mantra. And that chanting is so beautiful and so powerful that even people on higher planets, they want to come and participate here. Because there's a special thing happening, special party happening.
As the New Age people would call them star seeds.
Yes, special party happening. Yes, you're going to. Okay.
And, could you speak more to that about Lord Chaitanya in this very special time period, the luxury we have, the opportunity?
Yeah, well, they call it like the golden age, 10,000 year period. And it's understood things are happening simultaneously. Things are getting really, really bad. Just look at the news, or don't look at the news. But things are getting really, really bad. But simultaneously, there's like a undercurrent of a special movement going on, and that's Lord Chaitanya's golden age going on. So in pockets throughout the world, you'll feel that you're not in this particular age of Kali, this age of quarrel and hypocrisy. But in certain pockets, you will feel that. So the idea is just to really focus and try to participate in Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. And then we won't feel the raging blaze of Kali's days. Yeah, that's the idea.
Is it true that even chanting one time, like when you do your beautiful Aranams in San Diego, even hearing Mesa, you're on the path?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Is that what they do? They just want to come to get that social liberation too? Or is it to help public?
I don't think it's to help, but it's more of a personal thing, personal elevation.
They're coming to party, are the bad guys coming too? Good question.
This is first year.
Well, everybody's coming from everywhere. That's what it looks like to me. Srila Prabhupada one time said he had a dream. And he said in the dream that there was a bunch of devotees chanting. And then a bunch of non-devotees, means people who aren't devoted to Krishna, they started to chant also. And then that was his dream. So then the devotees asked Srila Prabhupada, "Oh, Prabhupada, did any of the chanters become non-chanters?" Because in the dream, the non-chanters became chanters. So the question was, did in your dream, did any of the chanters become non-chanters? And then Srila Prabhupada said, no. He said, that's not possible. He said their names are already written, going back to Godhead. So, but yeah, people are coming from all over the place. And that's also part of Lord Chaitanya's mercy, kindness, that we have in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela. You have Nityananda Prabhu, Balaram Hoilo Nitai. Lord Balaram became Nityananda Prabhu, and he was delivering so many Tara Sakshi Jagai Madai, so many Jagais and Madais. Means people who are really, what is it, kind of like demons or demoniac or kind of just lost. So he was giving them the chanting of the holy names of Krishna. In this way, he was bringing them to the highest platform of love for Krishna. So, and it says that Nityananda Prabhu, just like in the desert, you have this scorching sun, but then on certain nights, or the full moon will come, and then you'll have that effulgence of the full moon, very cooling. They said similarly, Nityananda, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's main associate, we may be burning in material existence with so much anxiety and problems and this and that. But Nityananda Prabhu is like Koti Chandra Shishutalo, which means like millions of moons. So you feel that cooling effect of Nityananda. So yes, the cooling effect of prasadam. Yes. And the cooling effect of prasadam. Yes. Yes, that's true. That's true. Yes, sure. No, that's fine. Here, we'll give you a new book.
Do you understand too?